The sound of grinding metal echoed through the empty hangar. Dust danced in a single beam of light breaking through a cracked skylight. And there he was, an old man, hunched over the wing of a rusted B-17 flying fortress. His hands, weathered and trembling, moved with slow precision. Every bolt he tightened seemed to carry a lifetime of memories. The smell of oil, the faint echo of engines long silenced. It was like he was bringing ghosts back to life. No one really knew who he was. He just showed up one morning, toolbox in hand, asking for permission to work on her. The Air Force Museum volunteers thought he was just some sentimental retiree with too much time on his hands. But the young airmen, they thought he was a joke. "Grandpa, you sure you know what you're doing with that wrench? Don't strain your back there, old-timer. That bird's been dead since before you were born." They laughed, loud enough for him to hear. And yet, he never looked up. He just kept working. Slow, silent, focused. Like the laughter didn't exist. The sound of sandpaper against aluminum. The faint hum of an old radio playing Sinatra. It was his world, and nothing could break through it. One afternoon, the old man stood beneath the plane, staring at the faded nose art, a painted pin-up girl once called Heaven Sent. Half the paint was gone, half the letters missing. His hand trembled as he reached up and traced the curve of her smile. And quietly, almost to himself, he whispered, "I'm sorry. Boys, I'm late." That's when a young airman nearby stopped laughing. He caught the look in the old man's eyes. That distant, faraway look only soldiers carry. The kind you don't fake. The kind that's seen things no one should ever have to see. But before he could ask, the others burst in again. "Man, this guy's living in a movie. Probably thinks he flew the thing in the war." The old man didn't respond. He just wiped his eyes, picked up a rag, and kept scrubbing. Soft, emotional narrator tone. If you believe in kindness and respect and second chances, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Veterans Legacy, because some stories deserve to be remembered. His name was Walter Harris, Crew Chief, 390th Bomb Group, 8th Air Force, 1944. He'd enlisted at 18, lied about his age just to get in. The first time he saw the B-17, he said it looked like a flying cathedral. 4 roaring engines, 13 men, 1 mission, survived the sky over Europe. He lost friends on almost every flight. Some never came home. Some came back missing parts of themselves, arms, legs, or just their will to live. Walter came back too, but not whole. Not really. For 70 years, he carried that silence. His wife passed. His son stopped visiting. The world moved on. But he never did. So when he heard the museum had an old B-17 in pieces, forgotten in storage, he showed up with nothing but a wrench, a coffee thermos, and a promise. "One last time, boys," he whispered. "Let's bring her home." A day's turned to weeks. The young airmen got tired of him being around. They'd toss jokes when they passed the hangar, make little bets about how long before he gave up. One day, one of them, a cocky tech named Daniels, decided to teach the old man a lesson. He walked in while Walter was up on the wing, tightening a loose panel. "You know, old man, this thing's never gonna fly again. Why don't you just go home and watch your war movies?" Walter turned. His face was calm, but his eyes, they were sharp as razors. "You're right, son. She's not gonna fly. But some of us already gave her enough to keep her flying forever." Daniels laughed. "Yeah, you talk like you were actually there." The old man paused. Then, very slowly, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a small, faded leather case. Inside, 2 tarnished silver wings, combat aircrew wings, pinned through by time but still shining faintly in the light. Daniels stopped laughing. You flew?" 30, 2 missions," Walter said quietly. "And every time I touch her skin, I still hear the engines." He put the wings back in his pocket and climbed down, walked away without another word. That night, the hangar stayed dark. For the first time in months, Walter didn't come back. The next morning, a colonel arrived from base headquarters. Colonel James Ryder, Vietnam veteran, now serving as base director. He'd heard the rumors about some crazy old man in the museum, and he wanted to see for himself. When he walked in and saw the half-restored B-17, his eyes softened. He touched the metal like it was sacred. "Who's been working on her?" he asked. "Some old civilian, sir," one of the airmen said. "Name's Harris. Bit of a nut job, if you ask me." The colonel didn't answer. He just looked closer, at the craftsmanship, the care, the detail. Then he spotted it. A small brass plate, newly screwed into the fuselage. It read, "For my brothers, the crew of Heaven Sent 1944. You didn't come home, but I did. This is for you." Colonel Ryder felt his throat tighten. He turned to the airman. "Find him," he said. "Now, Redemption and rebuilding, they found Walter sitting by the base fence, staring at the sky. The colonel approached quietly, saluted, then sat beside him. "You Harris." The old man smiled faintly. "Once upon a time. That your work back there?" "Just fixing what's left." The colonel reached into his own pocket, pulled out a small velvet box. Inside were his own combat wings. "Men like us don't fix what's left," he said. "We'll honor what remains." Walter looked up, and for the first time in a long time, someone looked back at him with respect. No pity. No mockery. Just understanding. The colonel stood, turned to the young airmen standing awkwardly nearby, and said, "You boys think you're serving your country. Start by learning what service looks like. This man is the reason you wear that uniform." The hangar went silent. From that day forward, things changed. The airmen stopped laughing. They started helping. Walter became the quiet teacher they never knew they needed. He showed them how to restore the engines, how to polish the propellers, how to respect the machine, and the men who once trusted it with their lives. When the restoration was finally done, they held a ceremony. Veterans came from miles around. The colonel gave a speech, and when the tarp came off, the crowd gasped. The B-17 Heaven Sent gleamed like new. Walter stood beneath her wing, tears in his eyes. The young airman he once worked beside, now lined up in uniform, saluting him. Then one of them, Daniels, the same kid who'd mocked him, stepped forward holding something in his hand. Walter's combat wings. Polished, framed in glass. "Sir," he said quietly, voice trembling, "these belong here, where they'll never be forgotten." He placed the frame on the nose of the plane, right beneath the words "Heaven Sent." Walter tried to speak, but his voice cracked. "They already never were," he whispered. A few months later, Walter passed away in his sleep. They found him in his chair, a Model B-17 resting on his lap, the same Sinatra tune still playing softly on his radio. At his funeral, the colonel spoke. He wasn't just fixing an airplane. He was fixing the bond between generations, between memory and honor. The restored B-17 now sits in the museum hangar, polished and proud. Every year, new airmen are told the same story of the old man who came to fix a plane, and instead restored their respect for those who came before them. And if you ever visit, you'll see it. A small brass plate near the cockpit reads, "Rest easy, crew of Heaven Sent. Your chief brought you home." If this story touched your heart, if you believe in honoring those who came before us, please like, comment, and subscribe to Veterans Legacy. If you like this video,
tell us
please
in the
hit like
comments
and subscribe to
who's the
Veterans
hero
Legacy
in your life
for
that
upcoming
deserves to be
amazing stories
remembered.